Hello and welcome to the 134th episode of Lake of Rage, a Pokemon trading card game podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Clementi, aka Mellow_Magikarp. I'm joined today by two very special temporary guest hosts. Joining me are two Pacific Northwesterners who are also co-hosts on the Drew Too Many podcast, one of the sister podcasts of Lake of Rage, so you should be sure to check them out. But joining us first and foremost, we have Andrew Zavala, or should I call you Dr. Andrew Zavala now?
Ooh, not yet. Not yet. Might get the dissertation maybe in June. Maybe that'll be done. I'll be a official Pokemon professor then.
Let's go. So, Andrew, how long have you been playing, and what are some of your accomplishments for anyone who has not heard your name before?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been playing since 2006. My player ID my pop ID is 5 digits long. Yeah. So I've been playing for a while. My main accomplishments have really been 2013 was like the big season. That's when I got back into the game. It was during Plasma Freeze. And I remember I had the weirdest Virizion Genesect deck that I think I've ever seen. And it played Potion. It's really bad. But I got top 8 at Arizona Regionals in 2013. So that was cool. Then lost to Israel Sosa. That was during his three-peat regional run that he went on in 2013. So can't feel too bad about losing to the man himself there.
Can I please?
Also won.
I want to pause real quick. The amount of throwbacks to recent episodes that you just threw in there is amazing. Shout out to Potion, which we called one of the worst cards to ever see success. Shout out to Israel Sosa, who has been on many times for that monstrous run. And was that the Arizona Regionals? The infamous one, or was that a different one? Okay.
That's 2017 Arizona.
Okay.
That's 2017. Okay.
2017 Arizona Regionals.
Okay. Anyway,
this one was actually pretty good.
Continue.
Yeah, this was back when regionals were like, I think it was like 200 people, maybe 250. So way different than now. But yeah, I got top 8 at that one. And then won Arizona States in 2014, I believe, with like a Landorus, Cobalion, Hard Charm, Garbodor deck. That was pretty sick. And then in more recent times, still waiting for like my big break again, hopefully coming soon. But biggest accomplishments probably last year. Well, I qualified for Worlds last year and got top 32 with Regigigas in Peoria last year. Was 17th place. It doesn't hurt as well. No, it still hurt pretty bad. I was annoyed because top 32. Oh, we got like $250.
Yeah.
So I still got some money from that. But then Salt Lake also got 36th with Reggie's. Ever since Reggie's rotated, man, I've been lost. I was a Reggie's man, but that's pretty much all about me.
You and a surprising amount of people. Reggie's is a deck that just so many people saw success with, and I still don't fully understand how.
It was like a deck where you're like, okay, if I set up, I win, and that was the hurdle, right? Was setting up. I feel like it set up like 70% of the time pretty well.
That's fine. You only got to set up 70% of best of 3, right? So you're fine.
Yeah, and then when Lugia came out and they played like Dunsparce Manaphy, you're like, okay, well now I don't just win if I get set up, so now it becomes a lot worse. So like before Lugia came out, it was actually like broken, I think.
And then the other person that we have on, and this is the longest I have ever not heard your voice, we have Alex Cook joining us for apparently the 5th time. Alex, how long have you been playing the game, and what are some of your accomplishments?
Yeah, 5-timers club, baby. I've been playing since like the beginning. My POP is not as low as Andrew's because I lost mine at some point, but it is still 6 digits, so that's pretty neat. My 2 biggest accomplishments are being on the Mellow_Magikarp podcast 5 times, and
the Drew Too Many podcast 10 times.
It's actually only 10. It probably is actually only 10.
It's got to be like 20.
And then I think I'm undefeated against Israel Sosa, so I think that's my other big accomplishment. Unlike some of the other people here, so
Mellow record against Israel.
I actually don't know if I've ever actually played against Israel though. So in a real talk, I don't know, but yeah, that's it.
He was so nice when he was.
I won locals. I won a locals last week, so that's probably number 3.
For anyone who is unaware, Alex was the Sablegar master of the West Coast as well at some point in there. Surprisingly,
hey, you know who number 2 was, right?
I don't.
It's the other guy over here.
Hello.
Okay, let's go. Both Sablegar mains.
I got Actually, yeah, that's another accomplishment I could put on there. It's top 32 Arizona Regionals 2014. I think it was expanded. It was
Mhm,
before Puzzle of Time was a thing. And I played
mhm.
Sable Garb then. That was
That's
when
like
you had
when
to think about what you wanted to junk hunt for.
and that's like when
Can't just,
Andrew and
oh,
I,
Puzzle
like
Time, blah, blah, blah.
that's like when we started to, like, talk and hang out and stuff because we were both
True.
I played Sable Garb at, like, the very next regionals or something before Puzzle,
Hmm.
and I used Andrew's list, like, 1 or 2 cards different, and I was like, "Tell me about it."
Plus.
I just
Yeah.
say, going off of that, I do have massive respect for, there's like that pre-puzzle, post-puzzle, and then post-puzzle ban, it wasn't a real deck anymore, even though it did day
Mm,
2 occasionally.
Yeah.
Anyone who played the pre-puzzle version is very impressive. Post-puzzle version, that was training wheels right there. Junk hunt for double puzzle every
Oh,
single
yeah.
turn.
Mhm.
easy.
No thinking involved.
So all three of us
Something.
are going to be attending the Portland Regional Championships, which at the time of recording is 5 days away. Should really figure out what deck I'm going to play. We're going to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about what the meta we are expecting, techs, things like that, how some things are going to change from San Antonio regionals, potentially change from the Japanese results that we recently saw. And I don't know, you two might have been expecting. I sure as heck wasn't expecting them. So let's go ahead and start with the classic question. What are the top 3 to top 5 most popular decks you are expecting? And if you can give a general percentage, that would be good too. Andrew, it's your first time here. So, what are those top 3 to 5 decks you're expecting, and what's a general percentage of them?
Yeah, I would say for sure. I mean, top two for sure has got to be just like Charizard, obviously, number one. Number two and number three could maybe like around Giratina or Miraidon. I think Miraidon's actually going to see less play because I think it's, word's getting out that its Charizard matchup, not the best. So I think because of how popular Charizard's uh, being now, I think Miraidon's going to fall off a little bit more. So for this tournament, I mean, probably like Charizard, Giratina. I wouldn't be surprised if like Gardevoir was third, because I think a lot of people are going to start to disrespect it and go more to like hard countering Charizard a little bit more, which could open some space for Gardevoir. But Giratina and Charizard at the top, I think, definitely for sure.
Alex, what about you?
I think number one's Charizard. Um, it's I think the only debate is if it does actually break the 20% mark or not. Um, I think there's like that two schools of thoughts where it's like, well, it was 19.5%, which is a lot, and there's no way it gets more, but then it did win, and it was like a popular player playing the deck, so it's like, well, like, will it go up, will it go down, who knows, but still it'll be right around that 20% mark, which is nuts. Uh, Number two will then be Charizard again, like if somehow we'll get a second spot. Um, so that's how popular the deck's going to be. Number three, I think, will be Tina. I think there's a lot of people on the, if you follow, there's this guy, Mellow_Magikarp on Twitter. He posted this circle of Tina. And I think we're on the circle of Tina where everyone's like, oh, it's a good deck. And, people will play it and then, no, that'll brick and one person won't and they'll win. And then, yeah, I think number three, Miraidon. I think Miraidon takes it over Guardy for the third spot. But those are probably those two. I think people are too scared to play Mew into a world of Tina and Zard. I think people are too scared to play Lost Zone into a lot of that stuff, especially since the Charizard deck played Jirachi. I think people are scared to play any sort of Sableye shenanigans. So I just like that's just like an easy top three, with Gardevoir being fourth probably.
So I'm in this different school of thought than you, Alex. Andrew, I'm not sure about a different school of thought than you. I think Charizard's number one. That's first and foremost. Everything I'm going to say is with the caveat of it is still the most popular deck. I think it's going to go down in play from San Antonio. And I think it's going to be hovering close to that like 15% mark, because I really think we're at a point where the average player isn't as much of a sheep as they may have used to be. And they're more likely to want to beat that top deck than to play it. And it was kind of looked like a little while in that Silver Tempest format where it was like, okay, you're going to go play Lugia because you can't really counter Lugia. Charizard's very counterable. There's a lot of weaknesses I'll happily point out in a second, or you two can point out. But I really think people are going to look at it, instead of saying, I'm going to play Charizard, they're going to potentially switch off of it. That's the boat I'm maybe in. Or they're going to be like, well, this very clearly the Giratina circle. Alex got my thoughts exactly on that one. It's like Giratina takes a fine matchup into Charizard. And so they're going to go to the Giratinas, or they're going to go to it's whatever people think beats Charizard. I'm not like 100% sure, but I think Charizard's going to go down, and I think it's going to be hard countered more so than played. Alex, you kind of gave your thoughts on that. Andrew, do you want to agree, disagree with that Charizard statement?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, first off, I'll give the thought that Giratina kind of reminds me of, like, as I was describing Reggie's, it kind of reminds me of Giratina now. I'm like, Giratina is very strong, and if you set up and you're like, I have turn 3, 10 into Lost Zone or something like that, or even a turn 2, 7, you're like, oh, I'm feeling good. As long as your hand is not just stabilized start and then like 5 switch cards in your hand, you're like, okay, I'm feeling great. It feels like Giratina. Just as long as it sets up, it has pretty good matchup against most things, especially in the late game. That's Giratina's strongest asset. Clearly, is Roxanne Path. You could just demolish people just with that alone, even if you do have a kind of shaky early game sometimes too. And that's kind of what Reggie's tried to do too, was be a single prize deck, get your opponent down to 1 prize, have some sort of disruption path, things like that. But anyways, moving on to Charizard. Yeah, it's definitely way less broken than Lugia was. Not even close. Because I mean, Charizard, like Lugia could turn 2 if they're popping off. They could turn 2 Amazing Eviltal kill you, or Amazing Raikou 120 120. Charizard, they're gonna do what, 180, which not even carrying
Get
anything.
that Vitality
Like
Band on
they're
there.
only, oh sorry, 190. Whoo, they're killing my Rotombi. Oh man. And so way more counterable. The weakness is way bigger, obviously, because you don't have things like Dunsparce. And so I think this weekend is probably the best weekend to counter Charizard. But I think also everybody knows that. And so like finding that balance is gonna be tough.
Alex, something to add?
No. I mean, it's Charizard, right? Like it's the classic question of, do you play the best deck or do you counter the best deck? And when the numbers start getting as high as they are, like that's gonna bogart most of the conversations going into a regionals.
Well, so now here what you have to do is exactly in these situations, you have to find a deck that 1 beats Charizard and 2 beats the things that beat Charizard.
Which is
So what is
incredibly
that?
difficult.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, who knows
Yes,
what that is?
don't know.
I offer up Entei Tacky Bits.
That's
As,
true. That's
Ooh.
fell off quite
What
a
if we
bit.
add an Oricorio in there?
that's what I was. Hey, I've been playing that Oricorio in Entei Tacky Bits, and I think it's good.
There's no room.
What do you mean there's no room? Just don't play 3 Entei.
There's no,
Just play 2. You don't
I
need
don't
3
know, man.
Entei. You just don't need 3 Entei. Just play 2 Entei.
It's also your consistency engine. What?
Yeah, draw 1 card as your consistency engine.
As that deck's so bad, it needs that 1 card.
Just pretend you're from 2014 and you're chaining Junipers. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's just
That is what it is. It feels very similar to that format.
yeah. I honestly don't think that Entei Tacky Bits is like the worst play, and I think Oricorio actually like swings the Zard matchup enough. Like, because you can just take Charmanders if they're not careful.
You have the TM Devo in there still, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Like,
without that, you're never beating Zard.
No.
The podcast host in me also wants to ask Alex a question. Can you please explain to listeners how Oricorio helps the Charizard matchup?
It's the fact that like you can, if you do the Tacky Bits thing where you get the turn 1 Yoga Loop, then you're not like banking on hitting 4 more switches turn 2 to get the second Mander. You just need 1 bits and then the Choreo drop 5, and you take 2 Charmanders. And like no one ever is like, oh, I'm gonna bench 3 Charmanders. But you don't even get 3 Charmanders. Like there's like sure there are hands where you get there, but like more often than not, like you're not getting 3 Charmanders, a Rotom, a Pidgey, and 5 other consistency cards in your opening Charizard hands. But then again, who knows? I might be wrong.
You guys are my opponent at San Antonio. Yes, you are.
Yeah, for anyone who
So,
doesn't know, the Oricorio is the Fusion Strike Oricorio, which does have an attack on it. And the attack is what we're talking about. Not the I don't know what the ability is called, but the Glistening Droplets attack.
Glistening
it does.
droplets.
Yeah, it does make
Fervent-
it
Fervor Dance.
something like that. It does make it immune to getting sniped by Ninja.
It's weak to water. Oh, if it's on the
sniped by
bench.
Ninja. Yeah.
On the bench.
Okay.
So because it
Reduces
uses
20
it
from
for itself. Yeah. So if you bench it
Lessons
early,
in zeal. Lessons
there
in
you go.
zeal.
Okay.
Good job.
I didn't look it up. I promise. I just had to think about it.
So that's the benefit of it. But
Okay.
I don't know.
So I want to go the meta in another way because I just mentioned the Charizard. I think is going to go down. Another thing you both mentioned, I agree 100%. Tina's going to go up. I think Tina is. So I saw Luke Morris, Celia's Network, tweeted this or replied to Liam Halliburton's tweet of. So Liam was like, y'all, Tina was the play for San Antonio. That doesn't mean it's the play anymore. And Celio's responded, people have a tendency of feeling like they missed out on the play and then playing that, assuming that it's still the play in the next tournament. And that really seems to be what Tina is feeling like heading into this one. And because of that, I think we're also going to see more Lost Zone stuff showing up because people know Sablezard takes a good Tina matchup. Whatever the Paradox box that won in Japan / Tord's been playing / etc. It's got a pretty good matchup into that, but you got Moon, you got Hands, you got what's that thing called? Kyogre. It's a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm expecting a greater amount of Comfy decks in general, not just Giratina, but other Comfy decks. Again, tell me why I'm wrong, or maybe you agree with that. Alex, what do you think about just there's going to be a significant number of Comfy decks?
I agree. We had a mock regionals this weekend, and I was talking a lot about with some players, and they were mentioning stuff like Sablezard, because it does have a good Tina matchup, like an amazing Tina matchup. It's almost free. I would say that people aren't going to go directly that way because I think that it doesn't have the world's best Zard matchup. Although TM Devo might solve a lot of those weird problems that you used to have in that matchup. But that's like the only thing keeping me off of that. But I do think you're right. I think a lot of weird Lost Zone stuff is going to come out. And they're going to be, I'll tell you though, they're going to be away from Sableye. I think all of the weird Lost Zone stuff that comes out will play zero Sableye.
Zero.
Because if you looked at San Antonio, all of the non-Tina Lost boxes, I think the top 64, top 128, whatever, every Lost box that made whatever threshold that is didn't play a Sableye. The Tinas did, but the regular Lost boxes didn't. None of them did.
And of course, ignoring the Sablezard in that, because like there's Sablezard at what 30th place, for example.
Yeah, like the people that are playing Ninja
Gotcha.
as their thing. Like people didn't play Ninja and Sableye.
Yeah, because they're playing what's called Lost Box Paradox.
Yeah.
Which is just play all the good cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we call it Lost Docs, please?
Lost Docs?
Why
Yeah,
Lost?
that sounds way cooler.
That's not bad. That's
Okay.
pretty good.
Lost Box Paradox. Just smush them together.
That's pretty good.
Cool.
I approve. Andrew, what do you think about the more people are going to select some flowers this weekend?
I think the reasoning for that is solid. It's interesting. Like mind games of like rock, paper, scissors, even sometimes you see if you're playing like a best of 3, rock, paper, scissors with somebody, if they win with something they threw, they're more likely to throw it again. If they lose with something they threw, they're more likely to switch. And so I agree with that, like, and also kind of FOMO mentality of, I missed out on the play for this regional, so I'm going to play it for this next one. But I kind of see that as an argument for an increase in like Rapid Strike and Teleon as well. I could see that as more comfy decks. I could also see it as more Rapid Strike decks, and I for one am a Rapid Strike fan, so I think I'm more biased that way, and would like to see more Rapid Strike because I think that's actually a pretty solid play.
A lot of the Seattle area players are in that same mentality though. Like Rapid Strike is seeing an increase in locals around here. And it's that exact same mentality.
I went to a
I think that
challenge the other week, and it was Rapid Strike, me with Snorlax, Rapid Strike as our top 4. So it was yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You
have some problems with consistency, but all your matchups are pretty solid.
And I think that's the thing that's going to keep people away from it. And the other thing is the perceived idea that it is a quote unquote big brain deck, right? It's not that it's like hard to play, but it's that it's hard to play for 9 rounds. I think that's the thought the general consensus that it is a hard to play deck. And
say more about that. What do you mean by hard to play for 9 rounds?
I think you can sit down and play some Pokemon online, and it's a decent deck, and you might be able to engage your brain a little bit while playing Pokemon, even for a few times, right? You're not just going rare candy Charizard hit.
Hey, I take offense to that.
Good.
I was about to say the same thing. Was that's all you do? It's just rare candy Pidgeot, quick search, rare candy Zard, Infernal Rain.
Yeah. So there's a lot more intricate lines, I think, in the Rapid Strike deck, and while finding those lines one game or one match is probably fine, try doing it for like 12 hours. Like it's exhausting to the people that like aren't super experienced in the like world of regionals. You also have to remember too that like Portland is famously a regionals that like doesn't have a lot of like East Coast people don't travel to it, and all the people on this side, it might just be like there are one or two regionals. It's I think in terms of the percentage of people that this is their only regionals, Portland is probably there at that highest percentage. And a lot of those players are not going to be like, yeah, it's my one shot to do well. I'm going to play a deck that's going to fry my brain day one, right?
Yeah.
They're going to just play rare candy.
You're
I
both
could see
West
that.
Coast.
I will also, you might be saying the same thing I was going to say, but West Coast is notorious for wanting to find the like counterplay and going off the rails and going rogue and finding the thing that beats the best deck. I wouldn't be surprised if it swings the way you were talking about. I also wouldn't be surprised if like Charizard ends up doing horribly because people are playing Meowscarada and Arceus Superior
No,
and
Maractus.
Maractus tool drop. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, there was a guy that went 5-2. This German guy, 5-2, on like a 100-person tournament like near Christmas, and he was like 3-0 against Zard. And there was a dad that was talking to me the other day. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna do side events and just try to go 3-0 against Zard. What's the best thing you got for me? I said Maractus has like a 90-10 into Charizard and a 70-30 into, or a 30-70 into everything else. It's like you're gonna get bodied, but if you play 3 Zards in a row, you'll win side events.
And you're also just gonna brick beyond belief about 50% of your games, maybe 49%.
So if you just get 3 in a row, right? Boom, easy clap.
Easy clap. I will say also. Well, actually, we can talk about this later. Never mind. Go ahead, Mel.
You're good. So
there was a transition off of Maractus and you didn't take it. Have you learned nothing?
there's only so much Maractus we can handle, but
we're going to trivia, folks.
not yet. Maractus is too good for that.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
Yeah.
So you're both West Coast people. This is something that I brought up last week with Nick Robinson, and I'll brought up with a bunch of friends. Have either of you been to a West Coast regional where stall or control was a meta or meta adjacent deck and not run into them or seen them all over the place? Because I've not been playing as long as you both have. I have a 7-digit pop ID, right? I started when Malamar came out. So yeah, I'm a noob, I know. But every single West Coast regional I've been to where stall was relevant, that first Salt Lake City back, stall wasn't a deck, so it wasn't there. And I've run into at least one and as many as 4 different stall or control decks in California or Portland or Vancouver or Denver or whatever. So has there ever been a time, or is this just like, yeah, the West Coast plays stall?
Yeah, West Coast likes their control decks, I will say. I think historically. You saw it a lot with like Primal Groudon too. Primal Groudon, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it saw very little East Coast play. And then West Coast regional happens, and it was like, oh, there's 2 in top 8. I was like, what?
That was
crazy. And I would consider it a controller stall.
Oh yeah, you want that deck out fairly frequently.
Mm-hmm.
It was everywhere. I remember that it was like Anaheim, I think, Anaheim regionals. Garbodor was or not Garbodor. Groudon was everywhere. I think there will. I think you can't lose to stall this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's.
I agree.
I think it's silly to go in there and being like, I'm gonna take an L to stall. It's not one of those decks that like are gonna like migrate in this pack of like XO, X1, or X2, right? It's going to be along all records, right? You'll have the undefeated stalls and you'll have the winless stalls. So like, there's no way that you can get into that tie bracket where you have like 1 or 2 ties, right? Like you're going to hit it. Like you're going to hit it once. So I don't think you can like afford to lose to it. That being said, take out all Turos, take out all switch cards and everything from your decks. Set aside to play Snorlax.
we can't let Cal get away with it again, right?
Well,
9-0, just sitting pretty up there, just Erica's invitation. Oh, okay, I guess that's game. Like,
what if,
no,
but
can't let this
what if
happen
we do it?
anymore.
What if we want to do it
Uh,
though?
So
What
That's
if we
true.
want
That's
to?
true. I mean, Saul just got 2 top 8s, right? It's going to be on people's radar. I very much do think people aren't going to be teching for it or are going to be like, it's fine, I'm not complaining. Do I want to be one of those people? Not necessarily. I don't know. It seems scary to play. It seems like I would prefer to just play something that beats it.
So I've been very hype on Stall. Weeks ago, there were 3 decks I was considering for Portland, and they're still, unfortunately, the 3 decks I'm considering. That's Charizard, Snorlax, and Miraidon, which a couple of those don't seem like the best plays. And I'm going to voice my opinion on why I probably won't play Snorlax. There's still a world where I do. And that is Giratina is actually
Mhm.
an unwinnable matchup if the Giratina player
Absolutely unbelievable.
knows anything about what they're doing. I have beaten Giratinas before. At the Tabletop Village Mock Regional, I did tie the one who made it to Top Cut purely because they were not ready for cards like Luxray and Sydney. But
He won the whole thing, by the way. Tina, I don't know if you knew that. Jake won the whole thing.
Different Tina. There were 2 Tinas in a
Oh,
cut. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But it's a terrible, terrible, terrible matchup. I'm expecting it. We're all
It's
cemented.
like 30-70, right?
Okay, I play the Pidgeot version without Temple of Sinnoh to shut off the jet
Oh.
energies. So yeah, it's you got to hit a good Sydney on there.
Even worse.
Yeah.
And they got Path against you too.
Oh, that
if you have the
is
Pidgeot
literally
version.
nothing.
Actually,
Anyone who thinks Path that isn't
Okay.
paired with a Judge does anything against, you're just wrong. Yeah, the Pidgeot version does
That's
not
fair.
care about.
That's
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you cannot play into that deck. It is so bad. Let alone Guardy plays a Turo and all that other stuff. I think this is the worst weekend for Snorlax, and I wish that weren't true because it is so much fun. The Pidgeot version. Oh, anyone hates the current standard format? I'm surprised you're listening to a podcast right now about Pokemon, but the Pidgeot version is the most fun thing I have played in a long time. It has so many options. I have taken so many prize cards with that deck as well, which is just such a fun win condition to be like, all right, that's cool Sableye. I'm gonna Lost Zone that one, and then I'm gonna Lost Zone another one. And all right, what you got now, right? So it's
You
not
play
good.
Lost City?
You have to. It's for the Minior, but it's
I
also I think it's Roaring Moon. So Lost Box
Oh.
with the Roaring Moon. What you have to do, all right, here's your Snorlax lore for everyone. Once they frenzy gouging something, you have to Lost Zone it, and usually you pair it with an Iono on
Right.
that same turn. So you have to do it against Dark. What's it called? Roaring Moon. You have to do it against Minior, and then it's also really good into, like I said, Sableye, for example, just being able to take those things out. Or what was it? I was sitting next to another person playing Stall at the one tournament last weekend, and the Charizard player was trying to play the slow game where they were like, I'm going to manually evolve. I'm not going to play cards. So I'm not drawing any. And they just benched them with their Pidgeot, knocking out the Charmanders. So yeah, you do definitely take prizes with the deck. But Tina is such a bad matchup. And the Tina players just have to read the cards in their deck to beat you. And that's a good reason why Stall is not the move this weekend to me. Lost Box can be tough, especially, like I said, in the non-Pidgeot version. You can run into some very awkward things like the Minior inside of the, what's called the Glasses version. That can be rough. Guardy playing a Turo, that can get pretty rough. Any Zard players who are like, okay, the West Coast likes their Stall. Suddenly there's a Minior and a Turo in a Zard deck, and what are you going to do against that? I wish it was a Stall weekend. I don't think it's a super great Stall weekend. There's just too much out there. And the other one that's going to transition to what I want to talk about next is Roaring Moon. Miserable matchup if they play the Japanese list with the Darkrai V-Star and the Cross Switchers.
And the Cross Seavers.
Sure, that too. Why not? Get the Pokemon back so it can't be echoing horned. And then it gets Erica's anyway.
Yeah.
I think this is another one of my takes that I haven't heard people say, which probably means I'm wrong. A lot of Miraidon players, I think, are going to transfer over to that Roaring Moon deck. Roaring Moon was the hot new thing at the start of the format. A bunch of people put up a ton of time into it, and then LAIC happened, and everyone decided, well, I guess it's bad, and then put it away. And then Japan happened, and everyone seems to be like, I guess it's good. And they're moving back to it. So I think Miraidon goes down, but I think Moon has a chance to actually make the top 5 graphic. this week.
Just another reason for Maractus.
Andrew, why am I wrong?
He's right. I'm hearing you say that, and I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I think you have decent Charizard matchup. Miraidon was like kind of a iffy match. Well, actually, it was probably like slightly favorable, I guess. For me, I actually didn't test that matchup a whole lot, but I played the Japanese list that did well. I played that right at the beginning of the format, and I liked the cross sievers and the cross switchers and stuff. You felt like you had a much more solid board state than like the turbo version. The turbo version, you felt like I can get 2 Roaring Moons out pretty fine, but then if I get Iono'd and like that, getting that third one out is like impossible. It felt like you ran out of steam really quick. But it does seem like the matchups might be there, especially if like Rapid Strike goes up, if Mew goes up, just because it's like a comfort pick for some people and they're sick of the format and want to play the most consistent thing. If Zard stays the same, because again, it's also a comfort pick. I don't know how its Giratina matchup is. Probably not great.
I'm looking that up right now.
That would
I've
be
been
probably my
told it's good, but I'm not 100% because like you can 220 them when they Abyss Seeking, right? And by that point, you can potentially just run away with it. But also, I've only been told that. I haven't played it.
According to,
I could see them not being able to get away with, having a slow start. They like in a lot of matchups, like against Charizard too. They could just Abyss Seeking. Charizard's not going to do much against them if they have a slow start. Roaring Moon, you'll get eaten alive.
Yeah, because in theory, 2 moons can carry the whole matchup, right? You go second attack with that stadium, frenzied gouging, and then like, well, if you ever Giratina again, I could just win the game on the next turn.
Well, you don't even need a frenzied gouging, right? If you go fast enough, you just do the Calamity Storm.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it says it's according to Play Limitless, it's a 48%, so it's near even.
Is it the 48%? Because ties always bring it down. So sometimes a 48 is actually like
316 and 316 wins, 335 losses.
Okay, so it is
it's fairly like a jump up barely.
Yeah, but
right,
50-50
sounds about right.
Whereas like everything else is much more polarizing. The only other matchup that's like as close according to Play Limitless is Miraidon. Miraidon is like 3 wins off, and Goldango is 19 wins apart from each other. In a sample size of like 400.
That's definitely
a good stat to have.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's like those are matchups that you're not expecting. Your 50-50s are matchups that you're not going to hit as frequently as everything else. Surprisingly, though, on Play Limitless, it has a bad Zard matchup.
Yes,
but
Zard is definitely favored into. What's it called?
Well,
Roaring Moon.
Right, and so that's like I don't know. I think Roaring Moon is neat. I think it is a neat deck that people.
I would not be surprised to see people playing it.
Yeah.
But there's not really a lot that I would be surprised to see people playing it, especially at a West Coast Regionals.
Yeah, there's just so much, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think the Miraidon. I think I get what you're saying about like all the Miraidon players that are like, oh yeah, all gas no brakes. Like this is the better gas right now. But I also think Miraidon, like they can see the Miraidon like success, and I don't think they're so blind to the like, oh Japan meta, it's back, everybody, like pop the champagne, we're ready to go. It's not really that, I don't think. But I don't know. I like the I like the Roaring Moon version that Joe Bernard posted forever ago. I think I talked about it on this podcast called Drew Too Many like a month ago. Where
go check it out.
Yeah, go check it out. Where there's this burrow line in there to prevent you from things like your first 2 turns are
Joe loves putting his barrels into. He had it in Sablezard.
Yes.
Just put it in Roaring Moon.
It's
Joe.
You got a bad consistency problem. Just slap a 2/2 barrel line in there.
barrel
fixes everything, baby.
I tried it in Sablezard. I didn't hate it. It might not be that bad Roaring Moon. Am I going to play Roaring Moon? Absolutely not. But
I think the deck actually, I think the barrel deck actually has like solid merit because you have access to Baby Moltres, which is like a very underrated card right now, I think. But like
that is one of your favorite cards, just period.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah. Shout out to the birds and the bees from 2.5 formats ago.
Alex likes single prize attackers that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Yeah, like Maractus.
Like, yeah,
Oh,
Maractus, and shout out to Nationals 2016, where Alex beat me in my winning in because I was playing Night March, and Alex was playing Baby Evil Tall Crobat Miltank. Woo!
What?
Alright, that's
hell
such
yeah.
a tangent, but
Sorry, I was looking around because I said Maractus for a third time, and I thought it was going to appear behind me, like Beetlejuice scenario. But yeah, I am undefeated against Andrew Zavala in tournament. So
whatever.
yeah,
The next deck that we have not talked about, though we did mention it a little bit, and that is the big bad of the world that we cannot wait to rotate, Mew VMAX. Alex, how is it a Mew tournament, and why are you shaking your head no?
it's not a mute. I mean, well, I think I was describing this to someone else the other day, where it's like it's always a Mew tournament, right? That's what Mew players want you to think. Mew players are always like, no, man, it's always a Mew tournament. But it's not always a Mew tournament. It's always a Judge Path turn 2 tournament. Like that's just what
I
it
agree
is,
with
right?
that.
Like, and Mew, and it's not that Mew is good as like a Mew, like currently. It's not that like that card is good. It's that it's the best user of Judge Path right now. And all of the Tina players are like, aha, Roxanne Path's better. And the Miraidon players are like, Path is better. Like, they're trying their best to convince you of that. But like, if you like Judge Pathing people, you're playing Mew this weekend, regardless of any sort of big bad, scary Charizard people. But I think it just has like a bad Charizard matchup and a bad Tina matchup, and like that, you're gonna play 3 or 4 of those. So if your Judge Patches don't stick, you're crying. But there's always that Mew player that gets them to stick, and you're just like, how's this guy doing this? So
I have thoughts.
yeah, hit me.
One, I don't think Tina's a bad matchup. I don't think it's a good matchup. I think it's pretty 50-50.
I think it
Because
depends.
Tina is also just Tina. Tina's also
Yeah,
just Tina, and you're Mew, which
yeah,
is,
but
I would argue, okay, Charizard's probably the most consistent deck in the format, but Mew's probably a close second, if not up there.
sure. What I'm saying is, I think it's bad just because like Mew doesn't like getting past itself. It likes pathing when it wants to path.
Yeah.
And I think that Tina just goes, here's a path turn 1, and Mew's like, no, I can't.
I think it depends if
Yeah,
people
it's
are
not
going to
great.
look at Grant's list versus Dan's list. Because Grant's list has the 4 path of the peak, but that's it, and then you play 3 or 4 vacuums. Dan's list had the 3 path, but also a Spiritomb. I think if you're running into Dan's list with the Spiritomb, there's
Awful.
no way Mew's win. No, there are ways Mew wins that because it's sure Tina
It's
is a
Mew.
brick, but I think that is one where it's like, all right, Tina's totally favored. Without the Spiritomb, I definitely think Mew is fine. DTE Mew specifically is fine
Yeah.
against Giratina. I'm
I
with
don't
Andrew
like
on that
Fusion
one.
Mew.
No one should like Fusion
Fusion
Mew.
Mew will never touch that deck. Which is interesting too, because um and so one of my options for this weekend, and I played this a lot at the beginning of the format, because at the beginning of the format, everybody's like, okay, well, what am I going to play? I'm going to play the most consistent best deck. So I was just playing DT Mew to a lot of my locals. And Roaring Moon was actually the matchup. And that was the problem for Mew at the time. And so was it Xander Perot and like Victor Ung and them at LAIC played this Mew Excelgor thing. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if now it's time to bring that back with maybe a different list. I wasn't the biggest fan of the list. Seemed like a little too spread thin in some areas. But now maybe it's time to bring the Excelgor back. But now instead of 4 against Roaring Moon, although it is good in that against that matchup, now for against the Charizard.
Right.
I
I
want
mean, that's why
to.
they played it initially.
I got beat by Drew Townsend, who, if you're a Washington player, you know is a very good player, and if you've never heard of him, it's because he doesn't actually travel to anything. But
Mhm.
he beat me / won a cup with a slightly updated version of that played the Fusion Strike energies, good against Spiritomb, and also played a super
Mhm.
effective glasses, which means 0 tablets can
Mhm.
now KO a Charizard, which is very annoying because otherwise
That's
they
cool.
need 2. So it's a little harder
Mhm.
to get 2 shots because every single tablet matters. And so it's like, okay, you have the Fusion Strike energies for the Spiritombs, you have the super effective glasses in order to OHKO pretty easily. It's like, that was rough. That was a very rough thing
Yeah.
for me to try to deal with as a great. I was playing Charizard B Barrel, which I've since moved to the good version,
Okay.
but it was still pretty rough to deal with that.
The more surprising
Yeah.
from that story is the fact that Drew Townsend was playing anything other than Rapid Strike.
That is what he said as well.
Now it's interesting. I wish super effective glasses was better in literally any other situation than just against Charizard.
Yeah.
If you play enough Charizard, definitely worth its spot. I might be more of a fan of like, I don't know, Defiant. I had Defiant Band. I tried that out for a little bit. It was actually better than I thought it was going to be because usually you want to
Into
be
what?
winning,
But when's it
in
good
that
into
matchup.
anything but Charizard? Isn't that the same
It's just
problem?
an extra modifier. It's just an extra modifier, and so it's nice. Because against Zard now you need one power tablet instead.
But isn't that the exact same problem
Or
as
things
super
like that.
effective glasses, right? Where it's just a dead card in every other matchup?
Wow.
It's surprising, well, because it's good against like Miraidon. Now you don't need another power tablet. It's good against Guardy because usually you'd have to wait for those 4 power
I was
tablets
thinking
to
of
one hit KO
Justify
Guardy.
gloves. Yeah, you're good. I'm wrong.
Oh yeah,
Never mind.
yeah. No, that would be the exact same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Defiant Man. And my reasoning for playing it was, okay, if I'm Mew and I'm up most of the game, that's fine. The problems that I have with Mew are when I'm not up,
Mhm.
those games. And so, so the Defiant Band was good in those situations. I even played a counter catcher, which came up quite a lot as well. Um, and so, do I advocate playing counter catcher? Maybe not, but the Defiant Band might be a little bit better than super effective gloves. Is what I'm thinking. But I do think you need a little extra oomph against the Charizard.
I want to give a shout out to when I played Buzzgarb Weavile for a while, I played a counter energy. And people were always like, you're an aggressive deck. Like, what do you do when you're winning? And the answer was, I'm winning. Like,
I win.
it doesn't matter. Like at that point,
Exactly.
right? It's a way to come back and use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
dang it!
I'm totally
I
with
took
it.
more prizes than my opponent, and I can't use one of my cards. I'm just gonna win instead. Bam.
hmm
I didn't get to
I
show everyone
love
my cool tech cards. Bam.
I love talking with my friends about the concept of win more. Drew Kennett kind of introduced me to this concept when I was getting better at this game, and he was like, "I think this card is just win more. Like I'm already winning the game. This is just making me win more. You don't need to win more. You just
Mhm.
need to win. So you should play the games that give you a more efficient percentage bulk, I guess, or percentage advantage for when you're not gonna win." So that's that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
Definitely a good piece of advice. What's also missing for the meta decks? There's Lost Zone stuff, but there's only so much that it exists. People are going to play it.
There was a limitless tournament, I think either today or yesterday,
Mhm.
that was won by Baxcalibur.
That can't be true.
Yeah, it was like
I
100 and
I
some
kind of
odd
like.
people.
I don't mind Chen Pao. I'm sorry. I don't mind it either.
I mean, yeah, that's like the weird part. So let's see, hold up. Completed. Sunny, I think it was not Sunny's weekly.
Andrew, sell
It's
me
just a
sell
big
me on
circle.
Baxcalibur while Alex gets this
It's
up.
just a big
Yeah,
circle, man. I mean, if you're gonna play
108
against enough
people.
Charizards, Chen
Yeah,
Pao's got a good
108 people
Charizard
this morning.
matchup.
All right, any Chien Pao player, or sorry, any Charizard players out there against Chien Pao, if they're not getting the turn 2 hands, you go Lost City, counter catcher the Baxcalibur and Lost Zone it. And then if they do
We'll
something
say that
else,
it's very good.
you go counter catcher, second Lost City their second Baxcalibur, and the game's over. So Charizard
We'll say
players,
that
you
is a
should
very
not be
good play.
losing anymore to this deck. Now there are things they can
Um,
do and blah blah blah,
oh,
but yeah.
okay. Well, so I just looked at
It's not
his
as favorite
stuff.
as it was, but
Yeah.
He played one Charizard round 1 and beat it, and then he played some weird matchups. So maybe
It's just like beating
I'm confused.
Maractus.
thanks, Alex.
Well, round 4 at 3-0, he played against a Zoroark box deck, who he got down paired to.
Yeah.
Um,
Iron Hand's pretty good there.
yeah, and he played against a Gold Dango round 7, and in the finals, um, there was the Origin form Palkia one. But anyway, he went 9-1 with backs. Like it, so
I
yeah.
I do want to touch on the Zard matchup a little bit more too, because
Yeah.
Kevin, I think you're right that the matchup is not as favored for Chen Pao anymore because Zard can do that, but because Chen Pao still has the opportunity to just like if Zard doesn't pop off and you can, Greninja snipe or
Mhm.
even just like snipe off a Pidgey or something. I think you're pretty good at keeping them off Pidgeot, and if they don't get their Pidgeot, then that play becomes so much harder.
Yeah.
If there's ever a game, I think if Zard pops off, gets their Manaphy early, gets their ideal like board of like 2 Charmanders, a Pidgey, and a Manaphy early, and yeah, and they have 2 counter catcher and 2 lost cities and stuff, and then I could see it going downhill quite a bit. I think that play does make the Chen Pao matchup, or the matchup worse for Chen Pao, but I do think Chen Pao is still favorable.
Yeah, no,
Is
there's
there
definitely plays that can be made. And there's also like, well, what if you're getting the Iron Hands because you went first? And then the Zard has to deal with the Iron Hands, so they're not dealing with your Baxcalibur, so you can just go one shot, one shot. Yeah, no, there's definitely
Sure.
reasons why it's not an auto win, but Charizard players, if the line presents itself, please lasso the
Yeah,
Baxcaliburs.
definitely.
And it gets much
right?
better.
Is there any merit to RCS this weekend?
Yes. I have you seen the list that got, I should know, they are the Arceus people, but it was the Arceus Regigigas, because Regigigas
Oh,
cannot
yeah.
be KO'd by Giratina, right? And it's still Judge
Mhm.
Path. And I think it's fine. I think it is the deck that you play when you want to Judge Path and you don't want to play Mew. And you're perfectly fine topping out at top 32, maybe. I think it's that type of deck. It's perfectly
And you're
fine.
fine not winning.
Yeah, which is a
You
valid
still
thing.
don't
There's a
beat
lot of
Giratina,
people
right?
who, that is their goal, right? I want a day 2. I want to get some
Yeah,
money. Or yeah, and I think
that's me.
that's a viable deck, especially if you are, let's say you're a senior listening to this or a junior listening to this, and you're like, my parent is going to play, and they don't really know what they're doing, and you can do fine with an Arceus deck
Zard. Give them
like
Zard if they
that.
don't know what they're doing.
Zard would also work, yes,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
I think it's fine.
is the Regigigas you think the best option for RCS? Or do you think
Into
it's something else?
this weekend, you have to have something that doesn't get destroyed by Giratina. And so
They
the
still
true
just
answer is
V-Star, right?
Gyarados VMAX. You Gyarados VMAX them.
Oh.
Well, they can
But they
V-Star it,
still
but
just
then, but yeah,
V-Star you.
but they have to V-Star you, right? That means they have to
Yeah, but,
lost
like,
impact, but they have to lost impact all the Arceuses then, and then they're running out of energy.
Andrew's face
Yeah.
for that when we were like when you said they have to lost impact here, he was like, yeah, that's dude.
That is what they do, though, unfortunately.
Well, but because you're judging them, right? So
Um,
they're only able to get that many energy on the field at a time, and they're only able to
Yeah.
progress their board that much.
yeah, true.
I'm not saying it's
That's
an
true.
auto win. If it were an auto win, I'd be playing Arceus.
Well, my issue is there's no, like, V-Guard energy. When Arceus played V-Guard energy, yeah, sometimes they would have to V-Star the Arceus because they're not one-shotting it
Mhm.
with Lost Impact, but at least Matthew Stratford's list didn't have any V-Guard, so I think it's way easier and more reasonable now for them to maybe do they expect the Regigigas? I mean, you have to telegraph the Regigigas
Oh
when
yeah,
you
you
get
have
the
to play
ball.
the V. Yeah.
I feel like they just can save the V-Star. It doesn't seem like it's great against Giratina still. Probably better than a lot of things. I don't know, maybe Gyarados is better too, though.
Isn't All Out Blitzel someone that people know
They're,
on this?
they are doing really well online. I know they've done well IRL, and they were the one who brought us the Arceus Gyarados that I played to Vancouver Regionals and did terribly at. But Drew Kennett played to Vancouver Regionals and made top 8, so it was
Who
a
is
good
it?
deck.
Is it
I didn't play at that regionals. He was like, he showed me the list the night before, and I was like, "You're wild, man."
well they
Because it's
so
unfortunate.
so speaking of all this though, another limitless tournament that finished this weekend with over 100 people. All Out Blitzel went 9-0-1, won the whole thing with Arceus Regidrago.
Yeah, Arceus
So
Regidrago's a fine deck. The problem is you have to set up.
yes.
Dang,
That
Oh,
is a
that
problem.
old
because that's
problem.
Regidrago, right? If you just theory out Regidrago, it's so good.
Dude,
You're like,
right,
I got this
where's-
attack, I got this attack, I got this attack.
Get Kobe Kawasaki on the line. Where's he at?
There's no way Kobe's playing Regidrago. Like,
No. I remember he was on the pod once though, and he was like, "You were like, what are good Paradox Rift decks?" And he was like, "Hear me out, Regidrago V-Star."
oh yeah.
And everyone was just like silent and nodded along. And I thought I was screaming at my TV because I was unfairly treated because I was like, if I was the one that was like, "Yo, Regidrago V-Star," I would never be asked back ever again.
Kobe just got
He's
second
right.
at a
That would
regional.
happen.
Yo, Kobe. I mean, Kobe's way better than me, so like, yes, like it was good to like be like, oh yeah, Kobe. But like, I think I saw him at locals the next day, and I was like, what the heck?
Can
Gardenia's
I tell a story
bigger.
about Regidrago?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't play Gardenia's Vigor because that card is awful. It blows my mind how bad that card is. But I played, and I'm going to preface with that as I go into talking about how I played Klefki Regidrago Turbo
Oh.
TM Turbo Energize
Been there.
at one of my locals because I was just going to play it casually, And then I walk in and they're like, "Oh, we're having a tournament tonight." And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna lose." And so I sit down against Roaring Moon, and I was like, "You know what? I feel pretty good about this. I have my clef keys." And he just goes, "Turn one, canceling cologne." I was like, "Oh no, that card's insane against me." Sets up just fine, and then next turn, canceling cologne again, and I'm like, "No!" He kills both of my Regidragos, but then he goes frenzy gouging against my like Regidrago V Star that I had set up so painstakingly, and then I go promote Klefki, attach Defiant Band, joust your your Roaring Moon with ancient booster energy on it, get rid of that thing, and knock you out.
That feels good.
So
So,
don't play Klefki Regidrago.
oh, I thought it was gonna be the
Because the
sauce. I thought
best
we were
part about
gonna.
it is attacking with Klefki.
What? How did you finish in that tournament?
2-1.
Hey,
Hey, let's go.
Not
Barrett,
bad.
that's a win record. If you
I
span
got
that
2
over
cards.
9 rounds, that's 6-3.
That's good. Top
Yep, that's
256.
true.
See, look at that.
Not bad. I like that math. I like that math.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, sure. Just do the same thing you did through 2 more times.
On our way out, Andrew, do you have any other thoughts for Portland Regionals for any of our listeners?
Yes. I like Munich Selgor a lot. That might be what I play. It's interesting because whenever I tell people, I'm like, I think I like Munich Selgor. They're like, but I hate Fusion Mew. Now, don't put it in Fusion. DTE Mew's got plenty of space. Put it in there. Maybe you'll be afraid of some Spirit Tombs. I don't know. You have 2 Fusion energies, connected to your Selgor. I'm gonna try. That's what I'm gonna be testing. So I think it seems pretty like it could be pretty well poised. Um, in my mind, it has a good matchup spread. The consistency, I guess, is probably what I'm going to be a little bit worried about. But right now, I think that's my top choice. I hate that Chen Pao also might be on my list, but
I love that Chi and Pao's on your list. That seems fine.
it's probably just going to be me.
Alex, last second thoughts.
Um, I'm probably just gonna play my 60 from the mock regionals. I got top 4 out of this weekend, so I'm just gonna play that
Oh,
60.
you played Klefki Reggie Drago, right,
I
Alex?
did, yeah. I Crackle Drago was really good this weekend, so I went 6-3. I started 2-1 and then did it 2 more times. But I like that, and then I like I really actually kind of like Entei Tacky Bits a lot. Um, it's more I like it more than I probably should, and I told Lee, my wife, make sure I don't switch off my
Oh, why?
60 from I was like, I think I sent her a text. I said, make sure I don't switch my 60 from the mock regionals, because I'm going to try to 5 different times this week, and I'm gonna try to, if my superpower is truly convincing people that bad decks are good, just imagine how that works on people that like don't know how to play Pokemon. Uh, it's amazing. So but no, I think Portland's gonna be fun. Go to Powell's City of Books while you're in Portland if you haven't already. Make
Go
time
to
for it.
Misen Thai Eatery. Oh my god, that place is insane. So good.
Go to there's this, we went to this just look up vegan Sri Lankan food, because I think there's only one vegan Sri Lankan restaurant in Portland. That place is amazing. We my Lee and I went there once. We're gonna derail this because Kevin said we had to wrap it up, and I was like, nah, fam, we're still going. There's
And we're
there's a
sponsored by all these places.
Exactly. No, we walked up, ordered this place, and they asked how spicy, and they said medium or high, and they didn't give us like an easy option. And so in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna go medium, and they looked at Lee, and she's like, oh, what do you want? And she goes, oh, I can handle a little spice. I'll go high. And in my head, I was like, they did not give you an easy option. They didn't give you a small. They didn't give you a whisper of spice. Like, you're going to die. And I think I wore a path between our table and the watering fountain, trying to get her about 50 gallons of water so that she could take one bite of her rice. Like,
You're
it
not
was.
selling
What a
me right
baby.
now, Alex.
Hey, but here's the thing. That was the spiciest food I think I've ever had in my life. Also, some of the best food I've ever had in my life. I struggled for about an hour and a half to get through it, but it was worth it. Oh my gosh.
You're a terrible food critic.
Nah, fam. Like, I'm convincing you that bad food is good. Let's go.
Oh my god, it's like Leafy on VMAX.
Telling you, which is a good play for this weekend because Charizard's weak to grass.
No, shush.
The worst thing is Sosa made day 2 with the deck. That
Well, Sosa. Like, I want to clear some air here because like
I
that
shouldn't
was
have
the
brought
last
up
time I was
Leafy on
on the
VMAX.
pod, right? Last time I was on the pod, I convinced Sosa to do Leafeon. We closed out with you. He and I sat on a call for an hour and a half, go over the list, and play tested probably for like an hour a day for that next whole week. And we like refined this perfect list. We're like, okay, we're doing it. We're going in. And we get to Portland. I go to bed, I don't know, 11 o'clock like a responsible human. And I wake up to a text message from him at 4:30 in the morning saying, hey, we're going to bed. Here's the new Leafeon list. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? We just got it done for a week playtesting this thing. And he had switched it from the Bib engine to the Lost Zone engine. And I was like, I don't have these cards. I'm staying on Bib. And he's like, all right, dude, let's ride. Let's get to day 2. And the guy manages to take Leafeon and run out on an hour and a half of sleep. I was like it was a little hard for me to be mad because I was like, yeah, Leafeon. But like I was just like, like
Yeah, and this guy beat me in top 8 of Arizona Regionals too. Let's get this guy.
yeah,
Get him.
yeah, where's Sosa? Let's beat him up.
Andrew, if the people want more from you, where can they find you?
Oh, follow me on Twitter at Sandra Zavala. And you can also go listen to the Drew Too Many podcast, which we just had our recent anniversary episode where we had Joe Bernard as a guest. That was a really good episode. And then recently, the other co-hosts, Drew and Trevor, interviewed Nick Robinson and going over his top 8 run. So you can find that on Spotify and any other places you can find podcasts. And then also some news, a little bit of news drop is me and Alex are going to start streaming, doing a little duo stream over on the Twitch channel, _Shrew Crew. And so we're going to be, I don't know, we haven't figured out a schedule quite yet, but we're basically going to be merging our content creation endeavors. And I think we're going to put out a lot of very fun stuff. So I'm really excited about that.
Alex, where can the people find you?
Yeah, the Drew Too Many conglomerate is coming for all of the content creation. It's like a blob. We're gonna start eating everything up. Yeah. So
You're a strange man.
yep. I'm very much tethered to Andrew Zavala. So like whatever he's doing, I'm probably also doing. So yeah, follow his Twitter and follow his podcasts and stuff because I'm probably also there. I also live in Tukwila, so if you're in the area. You can just come over. We can hang out.
My address is
my address. Yeah, I live close to the South Center Mall. So if you're around that area, ever, yeah, just swing on by. We got some leftover drinks from last night, so we got some stuff for you. But like real talk, I think I'm at Spokane Pokemon on the X. I think.
At Spokane _Pokemon.
Oh, there's no. I think I got in there before the boom. So, no, I don't think I have to do an underscore. But yeah, the Shrew. I'm really truly excited for what we're doing with Twitch coming up here soon. Probably within the week or so. We're gonna what we're trying to do is top 8 Portland so that people give us validity and want to watch us. And so we're gonna do that. Also, there's going to be a lot of articles and stuff because I miss writing, and I have a lot more free time these days. So I'm gonna write some stuff. I'll probably over on some sort of Drew Too Many conglomerate website blob thing.
Yeah.
Myself, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at mellow_magikarp. Rate and review the show, all that stuff. Be sure to check out the Drew Too Many podcast. I listen to it every other week, so you should as well.
Oh. Sorry, I thought,
we only
have I was like,
every other
we
week.
went on every week, and I was like, oh wait, because we only do it.
No.
This has been another episode of the Lake of Rage podcast, and we'll come at you in probably 2 weeks because I am going to be too sick of Pokemon next week. We'll catch you all in 2 weeks.